GENERAL VON KLINKERHOFFEn!
What are you all doing here, peasants? I hope you're enjoying yourselves.
I'm so sorry we're late, everybody. We were having a little chat.
We were a little tied up, I'm afraid.
Herr Flick, Helga, it's great to have you here. So how are you enjoying Amsterdam so far?
Well, we always enjoy Amsterdam.
We do?
The sun always shines in Amsterdam.
Especially during the day.
Okay, well, hello, let's talk about that for a bit. The reruns, in the Netherlands, the reruns are still on television today. Did you expect, when you made the show, did you expect it to be so popular that the reruns are still on today?
Well, no, I think originally we were just hoping maybe we'd get 1 or 2 series out of it. So the fact it's been so popular is wonderful.
We never imagined it would last this long.
No. Or that our characters would be so famous. I mean, we're not famous, but our characters are.
And at the time it was pretty risky to do a comedy about serious matters, World War II. Why do you think it worked?
Because it was actually a spoof of all the old World War II movies, and also a television programme that we had in the UK called Secret Army. And in fact, all the characters in Allo are based on all the main characters in Secret Army. And so that was the comedy, really. Not that it was about the war so much, but it was a spoof of the programmes about the war.
But even at the time, they weren't sure that it would be a series, because it took them a while to realise that they're making fun of Nazis. German. Helga's not a Nazi, is she? She's just a German.
She's only obeying orders.
Only obeying orders. Herr Flick does not obey orders. And there was...
He obeys Helga's orders.
Even then. What did you say?
I said you obey my orders.
Yes, that's private, Helga, you know that too. Yeah, so it was always... No one was sure, but I think the fact that they're making fun of the Nazis and not glamorizing them, I think that's why...
And in fact, they made fun of each nationality. I mean, the stupid Englishman and the randy French, and the very talented and good-looking Germans.
And the randy Italian. Good-looking Germans, yes.
Also, it looked like a lot of fun on set, at least on screen. Was it a lot of fun filming? How did they look like?
It was exhausting.
It was horrible.
Some days we had to work right up till lunchtime.
That sounds awful.
It was hell. No, we did have some fun. We could never look at each other though, Kim and me.
No, there was, in fact, the whole of series 6, I think if you watch it, you'll find that our eyes never make contact when we have scenes together, because we just look at each other and start laughing.
And that gets you into big trouble when you're only allowed 1 take. They don't like it if people have to do another take, do they?
They had a thing, because we recorded it in front of a studio audience, and the director never wanted us to have to go back on anything, because the laughter wouldn't be the same from the studio audience the second time around. So we were under quite a lot of pressure to get it right the first time. But
Did we get it right?
no, most of the time we didn't.
Sorry about that.
But I think because we'd all worked in theatre quite a lot before we got Allo, we were quite used to trying to do it right the first time anyway.
It's true, yeah. And you do get rehearsal in those things. You spend 4 days rehearsing it, so you should be ready by the time you get there.
Yeah. But I still get nervous when I hear the music.
So do I.
When I hear the theme tune, I get a little oh inside, because it used to be very nerve-wracking. On Friday nights we used to record it in front of the studio audience, and it was like, oh, my mum and dad were always there, sitting at the front watching. That made me more nervous than anything, I think.
The fun thing about Allo is the recurring comedy, the recurring jokes. Like I heard you brought the Vala Madonna with you with the big boobies.
Oh, so Vala Madonna with the big boobies. No, she's coming to the photo shoot.
I heard that. So, what was your favorite inside joke or one-liner on the show?
Well, there were quite a lot. We were always playing tricks on people, weren't we?
Yeah.
So I think, backstage jokes, you mean?
Both. So on stage a
street.
one-liner or a joke, and backstage.
Well, I think my favourite line, as I was saying to somebody earlier, was when Herr Flick said to me, "Helga, what are you doing up there?" And I replied, "I am standing on a peasant."
She was looking in through a little window, I think. Why are you looking at me like
And yours? I'm just waiting for yours.
She's making me nervous.
Sorry.
She's more scary than Herr Flick. Yes, speak.
What was your favorite inside joke?
Inside joke, I think it was probably when we got in as extras from EastEnders.
Oh yes, EastEnders is a soap.
A soap opera. Do you get EastEnders here?
Yep.
Well, it's very, very popular, and there were always people from the newspapers trying to find out the storylines. But we actually shared a makeup room with them, so our studio was next door. So all we had to do is walk through makeup and into the studio. So we settled ourselves down in the bar, and we appeared on EastEnders.
We were, hasten to add, we were not in costume.
No. Although John D. Collins had his moustache, didn't he?
Yes.
One of the airmen who has a great big moustache. He was there as well, standing in the background with the big moustache. And the producer only found out about it later. And she was very cross. In fact, she complained to David Croft. And he said, she said, "What do you have to say?" And he said, "Anytime any of your stars would like to come and be extras in my program, they're welcome."
It was probably the second or third series, and we were in a dungeon. There were braziers with flames coming up. It was very gothic, and Herr Flick was playing the organ like some sort of crazy person.
It's sort of Vincent Price territory.
Yeah, and I was turning a wheel that was lowering a false ceiling on Rene and the Colonel and the Captain, and yeah, I liked that. It was very much the Pit and the Pendulum.
Helga, Zavil, wit, let your hair down.
Yes, there's lots of that going on.
Zavil.
And I like the one where, actually, talking of views, where you told me to pump up the car tire.
Oh yes, that's right.
Harder, Helga.
Harder, Helga.
Faster, faster. I'm going as fast as I can, Hefnick.
Yes, and then you said, "Never before has one gone flat on me." In fact, Martin Dennis, who wasn't a director by then, he became a director later, had the idea of giving us a cigarette, like they do at the end of love scenes in films. Lighting it from mine, giving up. They thought that was going too far. But a lot of things we did were going too far.
I think we have a lot more questions. Just raise hands. I have the lady right there with the glasses.
I have a question for you. Why are you dressed up like Herr Flick?
A few days ago, I was looking for a hat, but there was no
Coat.
I didn't realize, I was forgotten that I was going today to
I
see you.
see. So this is how you dress all the time, is it?
Most.
And they think the English is strange. Very good.
Hi.
Like it.
Hi.
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 I grew up with you, watching you guys.
Threw up?
Yes, no, grew up.
Grew up.
But I grew up
I threw
also
up
when I
watching
was
you.
younger. But that's another story. And I liked it a lot, so thanks a lot for that.
Thank you.
I laughed a lot. It was one of my favorite shows.
Keep watching.
Yeah, I'm not watching it now, I'll be honest. But I watched every time when I was younger. I never missed an episode. But I was wondering about the old lady that was spitting all the time. How was she?
She wasn't very old.
Well, she was quite old.
She was 2 years older than Edith.
Yes.
They were much the same age.
Yes, they
She-
played mother and daughter, but she was actually only 2 years older than her
She
daughter.
wasn't as old as she looked in the thing.
No.
But we thought she was about 100, but she was probably the same age as we are now. We thought she was ancient.
Yeah,
But yeah, she and Carmen were only 2 years
yeah.
apart.
But she was quite hard of hearing, and so...
What?
Yes, that's right. So we used to get the giggles because, you know, you'd say something to her like, do you know what we're having for lunch today? And she'd go, I think it's Tuesday.
She was a famous opera singer, you know. Rose Hill.
Yes, that's right. So she had two careers because in the 1920s, she was very, very famous as a coloratura, which is very top soprano opera singer. And then, of course, she was famous again thanks to Allo, Allo.
And her speciality act was singing really badly. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
And they should have given that to her. I don't mean they shouldn't have given it to Carmen, but she had a very, very famous song about a opera singer who couldn't sing well. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
You see, you learn something every day.
He's just so interesting.
Yes. Please feel free to doze off. I think Monsieur Alphonse the Undertaker. You have your hand in the embalming fluid.
Swiftly and with style.
Yeah, there was that wonderful bit where he was trying to seduce Edith. And she said, oh, you are sending a shiver, a cold shiver up my arm. You have your hand in the embalming fluid.
We have another question right
Maybe I
here.
can remember my own lines, really.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
I was hoping that Helga could do the General von Klinkenhoffen announcement.
Oh, I don't know if I can remember it. General von Klinkerhoffen! Wow!
How did you start doing that? Sorry, that's your Oscar.
How did you start doing that?
I did it in rehearsals to make the other members of the cast laugh. And then the director came up afterwards, David Croft, and he said to me, keep it in.
And it was just to entertain us, it was,
Yes.
or to get us
It was
into trouble
to make
for
him
laughing.
laugh more
To
than
get me
anything.
into trouble for laughing.
Did you improvise a lot on the show?
No, we really, it was, sometimes it would look like improvisation, but it was all completely scripted. We would rehearse from Monday through to the Friday evening.
Thursday lunchtime.
So Thursday lunchtime, I suppose. Then Friday was a full day, but apart from that, it was quite easy. But once we got to Wednesday, we really weren't allowed to change any of the lines at all, because then it was set in stone with a camera script. So all the technicians have to know exactly what the lines are and where the shots are going to be edited and cut. So you have to be absolutely word perfect.
It would have been quite hard to improve on their scripts anyway, so whatever they wrote was usually as good as it got.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a question for the gentleman in the white lab coat.
Oh
Sorry.
no, they've come to take us away.
Here's it looks like.
Wearing a white coat.
Run, Herr Flick, run.
Hi. I was wondering, I mean, we live in an age of a lot of political sensitivity and all that. I was kind of wondering, in those days, did you get a lot of questions from people who were bothered with some of the stereotypes? I mean, I like them, but I could imagine some people didn't.
No,
Especially
not at
people who
all.
lived through the
I
war.
think there was very little problem with the stereotypes. Well,
Well, it was sort of
everyone,
making fun of
they
stereotypes.
felt it was the comedy at that time was doing the stereotypes. It was all very harmless, but very silly and very typically British humour. English humour, I should say.
I saw a few more hands, I think. The lady in the back, right there. Sorry, I'm making you walk all over the place. Sorry.
Faster!
Hello.
Hello.
Aside from your everyday character costumes, there were some other costumes you wore on the show. Which was your favorite?
I think this is a fishnets question.
I think it certainly is. I think my favourite costume was a corset that was made for me with a leopard skin panel down the middle and fishnet arms and fringe hanging off the bottom of the fishnet arms. We used to have great fun at the costume meetings because although most of the time Helga was in her uniform, when she did her striptease or whatever, she always got into all these fantastic underclothes.
And you wonder why you got all those funny letters.
Oh, do you think that was why?
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know, I thought it was just because... Never mind, let's not go there.
Yes. It's all getting a bit personal there.
Do we have another question? Yeah, right there. That's not that far.
We're back.
Hello.
Hello.
The gentleman over there already spoke about the current political climate. Do you believe that a series like Allo, Allo could still be made today?
Well, they still show it, so I imagine they would probably make it. They're very expensive to do, that's the trouble.
I think the thing is that Allo Allo had massive production costs, and not only were they big casts, but they used a lot of special effects and filming. We had things like steamrollers and biplanes and massive amounts of things going on. And I think nowadays the BBC does not have the resources to actually spend that sort of money on a comedy series.
And it had special departments. There would be a scene department and a special effects department. So it didn't really cost them extra to do.
No, because in fact they were a massive, great big sort of training place, as well as producing a lot of drama, comedies, whatever. They also produced makeup artists, costumiers, special effects men. Most people that worked in the film industry in those days had got their training at the BBC. So it sort of worked well. It was cost effective, but they could do massive and fantastic productions. Then it all became, each department got sold off and goodness knows what happened. And so it all got made a lot smaller. And now they don't have the resources.
And there are more channels, so the audiences are smaller for each channel. But in those days they had a costume store and a scenery dock. And so when they were going to put together a set of Allo Allo, they'd look at the scenery dock before they started to make anything. And if you look at each series, look at the panelling and stuff in Cafe Rene, because from one series to the next it's totally different. Because they'd have a different designer and they would get what was available in the scenery store. The Colonel's office was actually from a series called The Duchess of Duke Street, and a very distinctive blue paneling. Do you remember that? Well, that features quite heavily in The Duchess of Duke Street, but it was there in the scene dock, and they didn't have to pay to make it or pay to store it because they already owned the storage. That was a very long story, wasn't it?
It was, but it was quite interesting.
Do you think they enjoyed it? Somebody over there is still awake.
I think we have time for about 2 more questions. Do we? On the other side there.
Run!
Hey, how come the last season Herr Flick is replaced by another actor?
Because as another job came up and they weren't sure about whether they were doing the series. That was it, so it clashed.
I have the gentleman right here who has a question. Sorry.
Run! She'll be nice and fit by the end of today.
Hi, do you still have contact with other actors from Allo Allo?
Oh yes, we see them all the time.
Yeah,
Don't we?
in fact we saw...
Especially the ones who are still alive. That was tacky. You all laughed though. As bad as us.
So yeah, we see them quite a lot. In fact, we saw them last weekend. About 5 of us got together and we're doing something in a city called Gloucester.
A street festival. So, but we often get asked to do things over here, like Liberation Day. in Belgium, believe it or not. A couple of times we've been invited to go and help them celebrate Liberation Day. Isn't that right?
It is.
I don't know what some of the older people think. I was thinking this getting flashbacks, you know. But yeah, who did we see? Arthur Bostrom. Good morning. Vicky Michelle. Oh, Rene. Guy Signer.
What do I say now?
You do.
Would you like to come and see my little tank?
What was your fondest memory on Allo Allo, on the set?
I think when David Croft found that 50-year-old bottle of Armagnac, that was one of our happiest days. He had some friends who were fans of the show, and they had a house in France, and they were doing some work in the basement, and the builders knocked a hole in the wall. Some of the bricks fell away, and they realized that behind these bricks was all the wine and the brandy and stuff that they had hidden from the Germans.
Oh, wow.
And it used to happen quite a lot, so they would brick this stuff up.
Yeah.
And he had a 50-year-old bottle of Armagnac, which he shared with us.
I don't think I was there. I'm sure I'd have remembered that.
Or maybe you had too much and that's why you don't remember.
Thank you. Well, do we have one last question for run out of time? We have none?
No, they've had enough.
Okay.
I think they've had enough by now.
Well, I hope you all take the picture with the Fallen Madonna, with the big boobies. And come and meet them at the autograph station. And I'd like to give you a warm applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.